murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. So by now, everyone knows that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are no longer bros. There seems to be a rift growing between them over this Iran war. United States, at the very least, the citizens have made it known, and some politicians now, that this is a war that we don't need to be in, and it's costing a lot of money that could be used within the United States, you know, in terms of healthcare, education, jobs, things of that nature, resources. So Donald Trump has made it his point, at least that's what he says to everybody, to end this war. You know, the guy who campaigned on no wars found himself in this war. This is not the first since he's been back in office, but this one seems to have been more dramatic and more costly. More costly. It has affected not just the United States, but the world over as a result of him taking Bibi's word to join in the war that really makes no sense. So Trump is, as a result of this falling out between Benjamin Netanyahu and himself, Trump has displayed increasing frustration with Netanyahu in recent weeks as the U.S. attempted to strike a peace deal with Iran. And an agreement was eventually reached on Sunday, June 15th. Now, this is the thorn in the side of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionist regime of Israel. They don't want peace. They want war. And it's such a thing. It's crazy to say what should already be understood. Israel has been doing this since they've been there, declaring war on people who have been there way before the Ashkenazi, you know, Europeans got there. You know, since they've been there, they've done nothing but wage war in the region and have blamed it on other people in the region, Arabs specifically. You know, not only do they blame these wars on these people, they also label them as terrorists. And we know how Israel thinks about terrorists. They say they're animals. And so this is how they treat them. The Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Syrians, Iraqi, look, it goes on and on and on. But these wars exist because Israel initiates these wars. They are an invader. They are a colonizer. You know, they are occupiers in a land that is not theirs. And they have the audacity to call people who have been there for a millennium terrorists. You know, so what specifically triggered this blow up between Trump and Netanyahu? Trump had reportedly called Netanyahu a fucking crazy, unquote, for potentially upending Washington's efforts to reach a preliminary peace agreement with Iran after Netanyahu ordered an attack on a Hezbollah stronghold in Beirut. Trump also reportedly said to Netanyahu, and I quote, "You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates Israel because of this," unquote. Trump also expressed frustration when strikes happened close to a signing. Quote, "It's so bad, I couldn't believe it. An hour before we were supposed to sign the deal, I was so pissed off. I let him know he has no judgment," unquote. This is Trump referring to Benjamin Netanyahu. But Benjamin Netanyahu does have judgment. He knows exactly what he's doing. They decided it before it was done. Their goal is to derail any peace talks with the United States and Iran, no matter what, and by any means. And by any means. A lot of what's taking place in the Middle East, in that region and in that arena, a lot of people think that these are false flags. These are moves or acts taken by Israel, and Israel blaming the warring parties. Oh, it was Hezbollah. Oh, it was Iran. Oh, it was Yemen, the Houthis, you know. Oh, it was the revolutionary fighters in Iraq. It's everybody but them, But here's the reality. Israel knows that if the United States stops this war, ends this war with Iran, they're pretty much on their own. And we've all seen, without a doubt, there's no way in the world Israel can handle Iran. Israel has nuclear weapons, and yet it cannot handle Iran. It's a bad situation. It's a bad scene. But Lebanon is now the flashpoint. What we saw occur or take place in Palestine and Gaza, that whole region, that area there, is now being witnessed in Lebanon. The same exact thing. So this plan, the Greater Israel plan, it seems to be in full effect in spite of what anybody in the world thinks, and that includes the United States. We see the leveling of Lebanon. We see the attack on Beirut taking place. This is Israel's way of saying, hey, man, we're going to do what we're going to do. Who's going to stop us? So Lebanon is the flashpoint at this juncture. Trump publicly rebuked Israel over its military offensive in Lebanon at the G7 summit in France, saying Netanyahu, in a quote, has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon, unquote, and that Israel has been fighting Hezbollah, quote again from Trump, too long and too many people are being killed, unquote. All right, Trump did add, or he added, and I quote, you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody, unquote. And that comes from Trump is rich. Anyway, but diverging war goals, and these goals are diverging in terms of what the United States set out to do or why they claim to have joined Israel in this war, and what Israel has set out to do and why it claims it is involved in this war. Now, the objective initially was to make sure that Iran did not develop a nuclear weapon. That's crazy on the face of it, because at the time, all the experts in the world in terms of nuclear proliferation and, armament and all this, there was no indication whatsoever by spy agencies the world over that Iran was even involved in such a thing. So really, what was the reason behind this? Israel needed United States backing to attack Iran in the hopes that they could dismantle the political infrastructure, whether it be, a religious, governance or what. They wanted to get rid of it because most people don't understand Iran is the thorn in Israel's side. In other words, as long as Iran continues to stand and represent and protect the people in that region, Israel cannot fulfill its plan of the Greater Israel plan. They cannot. They know they will be subjected to war and attacks from Iran. And by doing so, other neighbors in the region, others in the region would more than likely assist Iran in this defense, not just of Gaza and Palestine, but Lebanon, Syria, and all these others that are on the map in terms of this Greater Israel plan. See, we're talking about Iran fighting what they call colonizers, illegal occupiers of a land that does not belong to them. So that's what that is about. Israel's going to stick to their guns, I imagine, until the world decides, okay, stop it now, and if not, we have to, you will become a pariah. You'll be on your own, So anyway, but those diverging war goals are there. They're so obvious. U.S. officials have publicly said that U.S. and Israeli objectives for the war diverge. All right. While fighting between the U.S. and Iran has been largely paused since April, efforts to reach a more lasting ceasefire have remained elusive. Israel has repeatedly pushed for Lebanon to be decoupled from any deal with Iran. And so that's the issue. So Israel already had this mind set up that they want to knock down. It's not Hezbollah, really, people. No more than it was Hamas in Gaza. It's the land. It's the land. It's just that simple. It's the colonization of the land as much as it is the occupying land illegally from Lebanese, from Palestinians, and whoever else is within that framework of the greater Israel plan. So that don't be fooled. Anyway, the greater Israel framing, that specific framing isn't explicitly how the U.S. officials are characterizing it, but the underlying intention you're identifying is real. So in other words, what we're seeing take place over there is actually happening, and it's real. The United States do want to extract itself from that situation, while at the same time, Israel wants to keep them involved. That gives it legitimacy. But because the war plans are diverging, they're different. The United States had set its goal and feels like they reached it. Israel set its goal and said, no, we have more to do. So this is why you see these tensions, and these tensions are also real between the United States and Israel. Netanyahu's continued military operations in Lebanon, even when they were about to disrupt a U.S.-Iran deal, suggests Israeli objectives extend beyond what Trump wants. Netanyahu has also faced domestic Israeli criticism that he's been too deferential to Trump, which gives him political incentives to keep fighting, especially with elections approaching. All right. So that's that. And as always, I have a clip. I want to bring this clip in to give us greater context and clarity in terms of what is taking place between these two leaders. Israel is only strong, and most people realize this, not because they have a secret cache, of nuclear weapons, but because they are aligned at the hip with the United States. So they tend to get that power that the United States, generates or displays or puts out all over the world. They're attached to it, and this is their intent. It is to remain attached to it, come hell or high water. Now we see this rift taking place. Don't think for a minute that the United States is going to turn its back on Israel. That's not going to happen either. Politically speaking, it can't happen. Too many of our Congress people, senators, are entrenched with the Zionist regime of Israel. Plainly put, too many of them are receiving money from their lobbies and other perks and prizes, if I should use that term. But that's what it is. Let's bring this clip in. Before I do, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to TAP, because you are tapped in to the art of political discourse. We appreciate your viewership and participation with this channel as much as we do all of you who have subscribed to this channel and has made it what it is becoming and has become to be. So we thank you all for that. Now, without further ado, let's get to this clip, because, like, again, it's worth listening to. It's worth listening to. And these are the pundits, and this is how they talk about
this time. Trump and Netanyahu have really fallen out. And in it, you write in part, quote, Netanyahu sold Trump and his own public on the idea that after 47 years, Iran's theocrats were finally meeting their Waterloo. Rarely has a geopolitical roll of the dice gone so rapidly wrong.
And now let me jump in here. What we're looking at in terms of the statement Netanyahu said, told, or is sharing this 47 years, and we hear this a lot from Israel as well as the United States, or United States politicians now, and that, oh, this has been going on for 47 years. We've been trying to get rid of Iran. Netanyahu for 47 years has been wanting to wipe them off the face of the map. It's also a term Trump used a couple of months back. Wonder where he got that from. But the reality is, since Zionists have been illegally occupying the land in Palestine, we've seen nothing but warfare. Palestinians did not initiate this. And this is where people are lost in terms of who is the terrorist. And who's the victim? You know, Israel paints itself as a victim. Even with the war with Germany, World War II, they come off or had spread it, the narrative or propaganda that Germany started that. That's not the truth. If people would do their research, they would learn a thing or two. This is common practice for Zionists. All right. A common practice for Zionists, what we see taking place in Palestine, what we see about to happen, the exact thing in Lebanon. They were doing this when they were in Europe, these Ashkenazis, these Zionists, you know. This has been going on for a very long time, you know. And it's finally coming out. So when Netanyahu, you know, wants to sell to the public, you know, or to Trump that, hey, you know, this idea I've had for 47 years is very necessary because, you know, we have to stop this. Israel needs, you know, our peace of mind. We should have the right to exist. You know, it's all cap. It's all cap. The fact of the matter is Palestinians and Arabs in that region have not accepted the giving away of land to Ashkenazi Europeans just because other Europeans didn't want them there. That's really the gist of it, people. Okay.
The Israeli leader thus faces an unpalatable choice. Either he submits to a deal that leaves Iran considerably stronger than it was before February 28th, or he breaks with the U.S. by trying to scupper the deal.
And scupper the deal means derail it, okay? And that is their intent. Anytime that the United States or other European countries or anybody wanted to make peace and stop a war in the Middle East with Iran or Iraq, Israel always created something to derail those negotiations and or peace talks. You know, the thing they call a false flag. They would assassinate people or they would bomb something and say someone else did it. In fact, 1967, Israel bombed the USS Liberty, a ship, and killed American military personnel. Why the hell would America be its best ally? Israel is also known for spying on the United States in such an egregious way that they put the guy in prison here. And he was just released not long ago and went back and said, hey, we got to finish the job. You know, and basically saying that, you know, the Zionists in Israel wants to take over the United States. You guys got to do your homework.
America First camp will be primed to praise whatever deal Trump strikes, even if it's less good than Obama's, which Netanyahu also did his best to scupper. From their point of view, Trump's flirtation with Middle Eastern forever wars is over. He is back to the president they thought they knew. Netanyahu is often called Israel's Houdini. Even he, however, will find this vice hard to escape. Should he try to jeopardize the Iran talks, Trump's reaction could be worse than mouthing off to a reporter. And Ed, how bad could it get?
How long you guys been doing this? Since 2004, so 20 years. And you guys have let out how much money? Over $8 billion.
Well, so part of this draft MOU is unconsulted with Israel, but part of it is that Israel withdraws from Lebanon. That is how the Iranians understand it. And that is something that the Israelis are not prepared to do. It's very unclear whether Iran has full control over Hezbollah, but if Hezbollah continues to fire rockets at Israel, Israel has said it will respond and it will not withdraw from Lebanon.
Now, see, I see off the bat, Ed Luce is, I think he's biased, you know, so when you speak not to facts, but rather to biases and, you know, made up ideas and concepts as to why things are happening, this is how you speak. The fact of the matter is, yeah, period, point blank, Iran saying, in order to make this deal fly or stick, this has to be a part of it. And this is coming from Lebanon to Iran saying, hey, man, we don't want this shit, but this is what they do. You know, they take land, they occupy land that is not theirs. And so when we confront this with these illegal settlers, Israel, the IDF, they come in, da, 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 da. So it makes sense to bring them in on this thing. It just makes sense. To say anything other than that is in support of what Israel is doing. Though you're talking like, oh, that's so bad, Israel. No, call a duck a duck.
And so if you take that as read, this will immediately jeopardize the deal. But I think the sort of bigger picture here is that Netanyahu's life's work is getting rid of the Iranian regime. And he thought on February 28th that he was now on the cusp of realizing his life's work. And you heard the language, from Trump talking about the people rising up, the regime being changed, unconditional surrender, and all the kinds of things that were music to Netanyahu's ears. Trump is now saying that the Iranians are very rational, they're very reasonable people, that Israel should stop sort of targeting apartment blocks in Beirut, that it should it should ideally outsource the battle with Hezbollah to the leader of Syria, because Israel can't be trusted. Of course, he said those things that he said to Axios about Netanyahu. It's a family show, so I won't repeat what he said. I was talking last night to David Ignatius at an event, and we agreed that we had never heard an American president talk in that way about a leader of a friendly nation. As Trump did about Netanyahu. So this is a political death sentence for Netanyahu, and therefore we'll see what he does over the next 60 days, whether he tries to undermine this deal. But Trump's made it very clear that he's going to get this deal with Israel's support or not. And the potential for a U.S.-Israeli breach should not be underrated.
David, as Ed says, Prime Minister Netanyahu thought at long last he had found the president who was going to help him wipe out Iran, its military capability, its nuclear program, take out the regime, all of those things. You go back to that reporting from the New York Times inside the Situation Room, where Prime Minister Netanyahu came and explicitly made the case to Donald Trump and convinced him to launch the war in Iran. And now here we are all these months later, where you have a memorandum of understanding and talks that from Iran's side need to include Israel pulling away from Lebanon. And Israel says we can't do that as long as Hezbollah is striking us from there. So not only did Netanyahu not get what he wanted out of this war, he may have to retreat because of the agreement that Donald Trump appears to be ready to sign.
Yeah, if this unfolds the way it appears to be unfolding, this isn't just it's a defeat for America. It's a potential disaster for Israel, because if you look at the larger context here, Israel burned a lot of its relationships with a lot of countries in the world over the last couple of years, but it has absolutely wrapped both arms around the Trump administration. It has thrown all the dice in with the Trump administration. And if you have a rift here, if the end result here is not only pulling in Hezbollah into the deal, making Hezbollah a beneficiary of the deal, but also creating a degree or maybe even entire rupture with the Trump administration, then all of a sudden Israel is going to be in a situation where it is going to look in the world and see fewer and fewer friends, and its most powerful friend is now deeply uncertain in its relationships with the country. So obviously we're thinking first and foremost about the impact of this deal on the United States. But if you put on the hat of analyzing this from the standpoint of Israel's best interests, not only do you not totally destroy the nuclear program, not only do you not completely destroy the Iranian missile program, not only do you not end its support for proxies, you've actually brought one of its proxies in, the worst one, the most dangerous one in, as a potential beneficiary. This is a disastrous for Israel.
Are you looking to establish your business using an address other than your home? Wish you had a...
Well, again, if the MOU that we've seen, the draft of it, is anywhere near the final deal, and based on reporting Mike Barnicle from several outlets, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post and Murdoch owned outlets who actually have been far more supportive of Donald Trump than not, then this is a disaster. Yeah, and by the way, I just want to ask everybody if they can just step back for a second and take Donald Trump out of this, take Democrats, Republicans, the midterms out of this, take 2026 out of this. And look what the world will be like over the next decade if this deal actually goes through. Mike, we're talking about $100 million. The New York Times or the Wall Street Journal is estimating $100 billion in unfrozen funds. J.D. Vance admitted to the possibility of a $300 billion fund for the Iranians. It's a reparations fund. Like, we lost the war.
And rightly so, because you had no reason to go in there. So this is the consequences. Those should be the consequences of a party or a country that starts a war for no reason and loses. Yeah. Pay up. Pay up. Sad thing about it, though, the taxpayer will be the one who pays this money. Again, they've accomplished absolutely nothing. And I don't think that they really understood that they were not going to be successful in this thing. You know, before the attack, they started the uprising. They tried to create a scenario where the people would rise up against the IRGC. You know, it didn't pan out the way they thought. So that didn't work. That gambit didn't work. And so, boom, Benjamin Netanyahu, again, for 47 years, has been trying to wipe Iran off the face of the earth because they are a thorn in his side. So he's created all these issues and problems in the region, and is pointing his finger at others as the culprits. And then you get these pundits, they come on and they get to talking about things that we're talking about a white supremacist mindset. That's really it, you know. There's no integral bone in them for them to tell the truth. You know what? That was all wrong. We don't know that Iran would fire a missile on anybody. We just made this up because this is what Israel has been saying. Israel should say that after all the atrocities and wars they started and committed in that region since they've been there. Yeah, they would think, hey, man, you get them a weapon, they're going to kill us because we've been killing them for 70, 80, 90 years. These people kill me.
You go down the list, a nuclear language that is identical to the same language the Iranians have been using for 50 years. Donald Trump distracted, saying, oh, we're not even concerned about the nuclear materials in there. Why even go in there after it? You know, I can add all of this up. And if it's anywhere close to what news reports are suggesting, Mike, this isn't a disaster for Donald Trump. This isn't a disaster for Republicans or Democrats. This is a disaster for America.
And I do not agree. Okay. And again, I do not agree. A disaster for America that is so that's inflated. That's just, you know, more fear mongering, you know, done by, you know, Morning Joe and his crew. Here's the fact of the matter, I think. If Iran ever gets into a weapon, and most of us think they should have one, that would be the equalizer. In fact, that would be the thing that curtails what we see Israel attempting to accomplish in the region. That's just what we think. And it has been made a point of fact for Europeans and everybody else to say Iran can have a nuclear weapon. Why not? Why not? Could it possibly be because since Israel was established as a country in 1946, 47, since Ashkenazi Europeans got there in 1917, 1918, that they've been killing them people over there for so long that their guilt is that if we let them get a bomb, they're gonna kill us. They're gonna chase us out of this made-up land called Israel. You know? And so they're telling the world, the Zionists, We can't let them get a weapon, because if that happens, then they're going to chase us out of here, and we're coming back to Europe. If anyone knows the history of the Ashkenazis, then you can understand then why most European countries said, okay, we're going to back you. We're going to make sure they don't get a nuclear weapon, because really, we don't want you back over here, man, with all the problems you bring with you. It's just that simple. Now, why Trump and Netanyahu are falling out is because Netanyahu feels as though, hey, man, you're breaking your promise, Trump. All the presidents before you, they understood the deal, that we were going to go over there, that we were going to stay here, and we're going to, in fact, take more land. We don't say it out loud, but y'all know the deal. If you make a deal with Iran and it involves Hezbollah or Lebanon, you're breaking our deal. Yeah. This is, I tell you what, you guys, I've never seen so much political theater, in my life. And this is nothing but theater. This is a circus, a show. It's a show for hegemony. It's a show for genocide. It's a show that presents bullies, who want to be right, who are never wrong, who start wars, who are the main terrorists in the region and the world, might I add. And I'm talking about Israel, the Zionist regime of Israel and the United States. Pure and simple. They are the terrorists, and America and Europe are being terrorized by Zionist Jews or Ashkenazis, whatever you want to call them, that if you guys don't support us, we'll be back. And what are you going to do? So just think about that. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments, your thoughts in the comments as to whether or not this rift is real. One, is this a real breakup between Trump and Netanyahu? And two, if it is, what are the consequences? How does Israel go about now trying to complete its greater Israel plan? How do they go about now trying to defeat Iran? Does the nuclear question come into play? Because militarily, without the nuclear bomb and without America's support, they have no win. And now Trump is in a position. Do you think that Trump is going to let Netanyahu pressure him, bully him? Or will he stay on course? Will he submit and say, okay, Iran, you got to take Hezbollah or Lebanon out of the deal? Or will he say, no, BB, this is necessary? What do you think? Put those thoughts in the comments. Let us know. We will read them and get back to you on them for sure. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.